If any of you have been on YouTube for a long time, you may remember a certain animated series called Happy Tree Friends. A once prominent and popular cartoon that began its run in 1999 before eventually stopping in 2016. But for those who have no idea what Happy Tree Friends is, it's an adult animated series that evolves around a bunch of cute cuddly animal characters who are suddenly subjected to extreme graphic violence. But no matter how violent and outright brutal the deaths may be, these poor little buggers are always brought back the next day to relive the same graphic violence again. All for the amusement and entertainment of audiences around the world. That's right, you sadistic little bastards. But all joking aside though, it is very interesting to take a look at the history behind this once prominent franchise. It started off as a simple but successful web cartoon before eventually making its way to film festivals, television, and eventually hitting viral success on YouTube. But unfortunately in more recent times though, this once prominent franchise has since fallen off the face of the earth. Mondo Media, the company that still maintains the rights to the Happy Tree Friends franchise, hasn't really done much with their most popular IP since 2016. And this has left many fans to wonder, what the hell happened? Why have they left their most popular IP dormant for almost 5 years now? Well comrades, that's where I come in, as today we'll be taking a look at the long-standing history behind Happy Tree Friends and eventually what led to its downfall in more recent times. Because not only is the cartoon an internet phenomenon, it's also the perfect time capsule in YouTube history. So with that being said, this here is the rise and fall of Happy Tree Friends. Our story begins in the late 1990s, and Happy Tree Friends was originally created by 3 people, and these 3 people would be none other than Aubrey Ankrum, Roadmonty Joe, and of course, Ken Navarro. They began working at a small independent company called Mondo Media, which was founded in the year 1988 and started off creating content for tech companies, before eventually shifting its focus to creating adult animations online. While working for the company, the 3 individuals wanted to create their own cartoon, and began conceptualizing ideas on what sort of cartoon they should create. While they were coming up with ideas for the cartoon, Roadmonty Joe began scribbling down on a piece of scrap paper and would create a character that would later become Shifty. He then began scribbling down on another piece of scrap paper and would create a little yellow rabbit, one who bore resemblance to the iconic character, Cuddles, even going as far as to write the words "resistance is futile" at the bottom of the drawing. And it was at that moment where the creators finally had an idea for a cartoon they wanted to make. One that would not only act as a parody of various children's television shows, but would also be in similar concept to the show Itchy and Scratchy. However, rather than being a running gag in the backgrounds of a much more popular television series like The Simpsons for example, here the concept would be more fleshed out and expanded upon, where the show's dark and gruesome and outright graphic humour would take centre stage. They then proceeded to pitch their idea for the show to the executives of Mondo Media, and much to their surprise, their idea was accepted. Okay, before we go on any further, I just want to correct myself on this part and say that not all of the executives were on board with the idea of the show for, well, obvious reasons. And considering what the show's context was, that honestly shouldn't be surprising. But there was also something very interesting I wanted to mention to all of you while I was editing this video. Apparently Ken really wanted to get this idea off the ground, so what he would do was that he would slip $1 into the pitch documents as a way of trying to convince the executives to say otherwise. And just to clarify, he was only half joking. So, to put it simply, he was both joking around with the executives while also trying to bribe them. So, yeah, I thought that was something interesting I should mention here. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Once their idea was accepted by the executives, they were then ordered to make a short animation for them, just so that they can see how much potential this show really had. After receiving help from both creative and professional people, they then went on to create the short animation Banjo Frenzy. A 36-second short that features a blue dinosaur playing the banjo to 3 different animal characters. The characters that were featured in the animated short were early versions of iconic characters that would later appear in the show. For example, the blue dinosaur was an early version of Lumpy, the light blue squirrel with the pink bow on top was an early version of Giggles, the yellow rabbit was an early version of Cuddles, and the purple beaver was an early version of Toothy. In the animation, one of the strings on the dinosaur's banjo proceeds to snap, causing the other characters to laugh at him, to which he becomes angry and proceeds to murder the living shit out of them with his banjo, all while he laughs like a complete psychopath. The executives were impressed by their work, and eventually gave them the full approval to make the show. As soon as pre-production on the show began, Ken Navarra and Road Monty Joe would go on to invite storyboard artist Warren Graff to help out with the development of the show. Graff would go on to become the senior writer / story editor for the show and would help to create the essence of the Happy Tree Friends world. Not to mention he was able to gain a great deal of experience from working on the show, as well as improve his skills as a writer. It is also worth mentioning that many of the characters that would later be featured in the show would go on to have more than one voice actor attached to them. However, I'm only going to be mentioning the ones that people are mostly familiar with, as there are quite a lot of names attached to these characters. So yeah, as you can tell, there was a lot of voice actors involved with the show. Ellen Connell did the voice work of 3 characters on the show, such as Giggles, Petunia and Cub. David Wynn would do the voice of both Lumpy and Splendid, Nika Lorber would do the voice of Flaky, Michael Lipman would do the voice of Nutty, Peter Herman would do the voice of Disco Bear, Liz Stewart would do the voice of Sniffles, Francis Carr did the voice of Russell, and Renee T. McDonald would do the voice of Lammy. And it doesn't even end there. Many of the people involved with creating the show even did a bit of voice acting themselves. Aubrey Ankrum would do the voice work of both Flippy and Pops, Road Monty Joe would do the voice work of both Lumpy and Splendid as well, Warren Graff would do the voice work of both Toothy and Handy, and even Ken Navarra himself did the voice work of 4 characters on the show. I'm not joking. He did the voice work of Shifty and Lifty, Good Flippy, and even Cuddles himself.
Luke Davidson says Ken do Cuddles' voice.
It's really insane to see how much hard work they were willing to put into this series. Not only were they helping to create the show, but they were even lending their own voices to bring these characters to life. That there is hard work I can admire. Once production had wrapped up, on the 24th of December 1999, the first episode of Happy Tree Friends was released to the internet, with a title, Spin Fun Knowing Ya, which featured 4 of the most popular characters on the show, such as Giggles, Toothy, Cuddles, and of course, Lumpy. Much to everyone's surprise, the episode became an unexpected success, gaining 50 million hits upon its release. Eventually more episodes would be released to the internet shortly afterwards, where they also gained 15 million hits upon their release. It was clear from the get-go that Mondo Media had a hit on their hands, and not willing to waste the opportunity, they decided to take the show elsewhere to grow its popularity even further. After its debut on the internet in 1999, the show would eventually be taken to several film festivals where its popularity grew even further. The show became a massive hit at these screenings, and the audiences found themselves laughing at how brutally funny and over the top this show truly was. Whether it be due to the lovable but memorable characters, or the various gruesome but creative ways it would be killed off, the show had a massive appeal with audiences at these screenings, and this appeal was not lost on the CEO of Mondo Media. John Evershed, who is still in charge of the company to this day, went on record stating that the reason why the show was so successful was because of Ken Navarro himself, and he was quoted of saying, "He had a clear vision for that show, and he's just a brilliant animator. He has created something that is pretty universal. I envision kids watching Happy Tree Friends 20 or 30 years from now the same way that they watch Tom and Jerry now. So really, it's Ken Navarro." While there's no denying that Ken Navarro deserves a great deal of praise and credit for his work on the show, keep in mind he wasn't the only reason why the show was good. If it wasn't for the help of these guys right here, Happy Tree Friends would never have been a massive hit in the first place. So yeah, Ken Navarro doesn't necessarily deserve all of the credit. In 2006, the show would eventually go on to receive its own TV series, and began airing on various television networks like MTV and Comedy Central channels that were located in Europe. Not only that, but the show would also receive a boost in quality, where the animation became a lot more smoother and the character designs were a lot less rough around the edges. Airing in more than 50 countries, Happy Tree Friends was exposed to millions of people across the globe. And that wasn't even the end of it. The show would also go on to spawn a few additional animations for the series, such as the Kringles, the Love Bites, the Smoochies, and of course, the Irregular episodes. Not only that, but the show would also go on to spawn some other things such as merchandise, comics, and of course, a few video games. Although granted there was only one console game ever released for the series, which was given the title Happy Tree Friends False Alarm. The other ones they would release were mostly nothing more than mobile games, and these would differ in terms of quality. I haven't really played these games, nor do I plan on doing so for that matter. In all honesty, these games don't look very appealing to me. Especially not this one. Noise. Yep, not in a million fucking years. But by far one of the more interesting things the Happy Tree Friends would be involved in was the time when they made a music video for the song Carpal Tunnel of Love. A song that was created by the Fall Out Boys and was released in 2006. The video shows Giggles and Cuddles falling in love with each other, all while Lumpy is going around inadvertently getting his own friends killed. And this is all happening while the song is playing in the background. Not to mention, the Fall Out Boys themselves make a cameo appearance in the video, but as cartoon bears. In February of 2007, the music video was released on the Fall Out Boy website and would eventually make its way to YouTube in 2012, where it currently sits at around 8.6 million views as of recording this video. As if things couldn't get any better for Mondo Media, they would eventually bring the series to a new limelight of success by creating their very own YouTube channel. On the 22nd of January 2007, Mondo Media created its official YouTube channel and began uploading Mondo Media content to the channel. The first few videos they uploaded didn't garner much attention at the time, however that would all eventually change when they started uploading Happy Tree Friends episodes. The videos started going viral upon their release, with each one of them gaining millions upon millions of views. In fact, two of their most popular videos currently sits at around 86 million views, which is quite the achievement. Now keep in mind, YouTube was a completely different place back in the day, where individual content creators had very limited resources and had to work with what they had lying around at the time, which basically meant you could create incredibly cringy content and yet somehow still get noticed. Remember, this was around the time when Fred was still a thing.
Hey, it's Fred! And I'm gonna brush my teeth because I have a dentist appointment today. Brushing my teeth tickles.
Quick! Go and get your service revolver! I'll try switching the G!
I'm scared!
But Mondo Media was different. It wasn't a single content creator, it was a private company. One that was uploading episode after episode of a series that actually made people laugh. And just like at the film festivals and its run on television, Happy Tree Friends had a massive appeal with audiences across YouTube. And of course, Mondo Media was in the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Now, in hindsight, this really shouldn't be surprising. After all, Mondo Media has proven themselves to be quite the innovators when it comes to using online platforms as a way of advertising their brand. Not to mention, in 2013, Mondo Media was considered to be one of the most popular YouTube channels at the time, earning themselves 1.3 billion views and gaining around 1.3 million subscribers. To say that Happy Tree Friends was a massive hit would be quite the understatement. Not only did the show manage to gain great reception from audiences and surprisingly positive reviews from critics, but it even went on to receive a few awards over the years at film festivals, which is quite an achievement considering the context of the show. Now, it is also worth mentioning that Happy Tree Friends wasn't the only successful show that Mondo Media had under their belt. They had also gained a great deal of success from other shows like Dick Figures and Deep Space 69, which, judging from the title, I think you all can get an idea of what that show is about.
Nice.
But Happy Tree Friends was by far Mondo Media's most popular IP. If anything, it was basically the face of Mondo Media. When you think of the company Mondo Media nowadays, Happy Tree Friends is always the one thing that pops to mind first. With all the success the show had made, it seemed as if Happy Tree Friends was untouchable, and as if nothing could bring this show down. But, unfortunately for the Happy Tree Friends, a storm of controversy was on the horizon. What most people are probably not aware of, but wouldn't be surprised to hear in hindsight, was that Happy Tree Friends found itself in a bit of controversy during its time on television. Parents were concerned about the graphic violence of the show and the looming possibility that children might end up watching it. One of these parents even went as far as to write a letter to the Washington Post, complaining about the fact that she had witnessed her own 6-year-old son watching the show on television. Now, don't get me wrong, keeping R-rated content out of the hands of children is something I can agree with. If anything, it's completely mandatory. But remember, that's the job of the rating system and the parents. The show was rated as PG-13, and episodes themselves had warnings put in place before the cartoon started, making it very clear that Happy Tree Friends was not meant for young children. So yeah, I think we all know whose fault it is in this situation. These parents clearly should have been regulating what their children can and cannot watch on television, as well as making sure they weren't watching said adult content in the first place. But rather than just sitting down and having a conversation with their children, they instead chose to basically blame the creators of the show. Some of which even went as far as to start sending the creators hate mail. Because, yeah, that's not an ironically childish thing to do now, is it? Unsurprisingly, no one from behind the scenes was taking any of this hate mail seriously. In fact, they even went as far as to mock their asses by creating a bonus feature for it.
We occasionally get hate mail. There are some people who are not amused by the show for whatever.
Which is really weird because I feel like it's like one of those shows that like everybody can get behind.
Yeah, it's like they say, it's relatable. But apparently some people do not relate to the show. And they send us hate mail. And so because we're the kind of turn lemons into lemonade sorts of guys, we made a bonus feature out of it.
I think these shows are disgusting, and whoever likes it has serious mental problems.
It is fun. Why are the show disgusting, like having kind of blood? Why must the show have the blood?
I think this show is ridiculous. Firstly, it's violence. Secondly, it teaches children things that they don't need to know, like violence.
Dear Happy Tree friends, the show is crap. How could you make such a show? You put violence into children's mind. I am a child. It is horrible. No, it is horrible. It's horrible! It's horrible!
Unfortunately, the controversy wasn't over. Happy Tree Friends would also find itself in trouble with an entire country. I'm not joking when I say this, people, but Happy Tree Friends actually did find itself in controversy with the Russian government. The controversy started in 2008 when Russia's Protestant church began issuing complaints about the show's graphic violence. An official from the church even stated that the television channel 2x2 was perverting the morality of the nation and demanded that the station be shut down. There was also an official complaint from a government watchdog who stated that the show was too cruel and too violent. This, unsurprisingly, prompted the Russian government to take immediate action, and they demanded 2x2 to remove the show off the air. This unsurprisingly left many Russian fans to be outright frustrated with the government's actions, with many of them believing this to be an unnecessary act of censorship, especially considering the blatant hypocrisy coming out of the Russian government's mouth. They'll ban a 2D animated show for graphic violence, and yet they have plenty of television shows and movies that feature real-life human beings being killed in brutal and gory ways.
What? 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 What?
Yeah, if that's not hypocrisy, I don't know what is. Not to mention, a regulatory body for Russian television was even quoted of saying this. Oh, well, cry me a f***ing river. But despite the outrage from fans, it didn't stop the inevitable. The show was pulled off the air from Russian television and was subsequently banned from Russia altogether. And that's not even the end of it. Recently, in July of this year, a Russian court has banned the distribution of Happy Tree Friends along with several other animated movies. And I am not joking, but during this time, somebody was literally quoted of saying this about the cartoon. You know, it really hurts my brain knowing an actual adult said that. But despite the abysmal controversy, it didn't seem to have much of a negative effect on Happy Tree Friends. They continued creating more episodes for the show and would even go on to create a new series called Happy Tree Friends Carpal, a spin-off series that had a heavy emphasis on action along with a different art style. However, it still maintained the comedy that made Happy Tree Friends popular in the first place. While it was a viral hit on YouTube, it was sadly short-lived, only lasting around 6 episodes. In 2011, there was an attempt to bring the show back via a Kickstarter, but sadly the Kickstarter failed. But despite all that, the show marched on regardless, with more episodes being released and each one of them becoming a viral hit on YouTube. In fact, Mondo Media would actually go on to create a few videos for YouTube. The first one was called YouTube 101 Subscriptions, which surprisingly enough doesn't even have any gore in it. And the second one was the infamous YouTube copyright school video.
If YouTube receives a valid notification of alleged copyright infringement from a copyright holder for one of your videos, the video will be removed in accordance with the law.
Yeah, to say this video has aged like milk would simply not be cutting it. Also, you wouldn't be surprised to see that the comments have been disabled on the video, and the like to dislike ratio, well... However, in 2014, after the release of the final episode at the time, Dream Job, the show would undergo a hiatus for the next 2 years. And this was the beginning of the end for Happy Tree Friends. Now, the show undergoing a hiatus wasn't really anything new for the franchise at the time. The show had already undergone 2 hiatuses before in the past, with each one only lasting for around a year. Once the time was up, the show would bounce back and become successful once again. However, this time around, the show wouldn't be so lucky. Now, there are 3 reasons for why the hiatus happened. The first reason was due to the fact that Mondo Media wasn't requesting for new episodes to be made by that point. The second reason was because Ken Navarro was busy working on his own projects at the time and couldn't fill in for the show. The final reason was due to the fact that Mondo Media was incredibly busy working on the production of several animated films, including the Happy Tree Friends movie. In 2014, Mondo Media would announce they had plans for a feature film based on the Happy Tree Friends franchise, and this was a project that Ken Navarro had no involvement in whatsoever. In 2015, during an AOD convention, Warren Graff and Ken Pontac would go on to confirm that the reason why no new episodes for the show were being made was because a movie was indeed being planned for the series.
But at this moment, there are no new episodes planned. It's more of a, I think, budget thing than anything else.
Yeah, it's not a secret. They're working on putting together a movie. So I know it's not a secret because I read about it on the internet too. Maybe they told me about it, but I also read about it. So it's out there. So I think they are focusing on that kind of stuff. So that's why there's no real new episodes right now. You know, whenever they call us, we'll do it. So.
Now, considering the fact that the movie's scope and scale would have been quite massive and time-consuming, it is understandable as to why the show needed to be put on production hiatus for the time being. However, as the years have gone by though, the movie would ultimately never materialise in the end, and to this day, Mondo Media hasn't given an official reason as to why this is the case. This has left many to believe that either production has halted or the project was completely scrapped altogether. When Ken Navarro was asked about the movie, this was his response. Yeah, I have no idea what he means by this, so God knows what happened to the movie in the end. Now, a lot of cartoons have had movies made about them before, many of which have flopped and failed miserably, and that's probably due to them not really being good enough to expand upon the running time of a feature-length film. And I think it's safe to say that Happy Tree Friends would have fallen into the same category as all these other movies. The show was never really about character development or progressing a story, so I think you all can get an idea as to why it never got off the ground in the end.
Yeah, although the idea of doing a Happy Tree Friends feature is, it's daunting.
It's a little frightening.
Yeah, not exactly sure, how to crack that nut.
It doesn't lend itself easily to a 90 minutes feature-length film.
Unless we jump the shark in ways that we have said we wouldn't, like making them talk.
No.
Things like that. Yes? Yeah.
Would they talk? No.
Would they talk?
I don't want them to ever talk.
Yeah,
How are you going to pull a 90-minute movie of no talking and still end up killing everybody?
There are some, I noticed I've seen some things where they don't talk, they're kind of silent, but there's a little bit more communication. We don't have any sort of language at all. There's no words, which is, I think, part of the appeal of Happy Tree Friends worldwide, because it's huge all over the world. It's surprising to us.
I just figured it out. Well, we'll have them talk the way they talk. Hey, we'll do subtitles.
We can do subtitles with it. Oh yeah, that's pretty actually.
And to be honest, I don't think I can really blame Mondo Media for not wanting to take such a risky investment on an idea that was probably doomed to fail from the beginning. So to be honest, if they did indeed cancel their plans for a movie, that was probably for the best. But despite all that, on the 27th of April 2016, Ken would announce on Twitter that he was exploring the possibility of new episodes, and this would end up becoming a reality on the 28th of October 2016. Mondo Media released a teaser for the new episodes, which were given the title Happy Tree Friends Still Alive. And these new episodes were made available for online purchasing in December of that year. Before all this, Ken announced on Twitter that the reason why the show was on hiatus was due to concerns over budget, schedule, and availability. With the show finally back in action, it seemed as if Mondo Media was ready for another round of success. But unfortunately, that wasn't going to be the case this time around. On the 16th of January 2017, Ken announced on Twitter that while the sales did okay, they fell below everyone's expectations. He then posted another tweet the following day after, and was quoted of saying, "It means there probably won't be any new episodes in the near future. Never say never though, I remain optimistic." However, almost 5 years have passed since that last tweet, and not much has been done with the show since then. Aside from uploading the Still Alive episodes to their YouTube channel, and releasing Japanese merchandise in 2019, Mondo Media hasn't done much with their most popular IP since then. To this day, it still hasn't been confirmed whether the show is on hiatus again, or if the show has been cancelled altogether, leaving the franchise stuck in limbo and many fans wondering if the show will ever make a return. While doing research for the video, I decided to go around and ask several members of the community if they had noticed a drop in quality with the show, and I got mixed responses to say the least. Some people said the show didn't really fail because it's still popular within the fandom. Some people thought the Still Alive episodes were mediocre. Some people didn't really like the spin-off show, and some people said there were episodes that were unnecessarily cruel and too mean-spirited towards its characters. So it kind of depends on who you ask within the fandom. As for my personal opinion, well, aside from a few episodes I personally didn't like, I honestly don't think the show suffered from a severe drop in quality, but I do believe I have the answer as to why the show went downhill. Taking a look back, it appears the show was already suffering from a drop in viewership even before the Still Alive episodes were released. And I think the reason why was because the formula became repetitive and boring as time went by. And yes, I know a lot of people won't agree with me on that statement, and in all honesty, they are free to do so. But let me explain. Now, Happy Tree Friends is like the extreme version of Tom and Jerry, as both shows have a similar premise and are both known for their cartoonish violence. However, Tom and Jerry wasn't just cartoonish violence for the sake of cartoonish violence. The show had a different variety of comedy and humour rather than just continuous slapstick. Happy Tree Friends, on the other hand, was all about its gore and violence, with the only different thing being the scenarios and the various ways the characters would be killed off. And when you repeat that same formula over and over again without adding anything new to it, people will start to lose interest. And as a result, viewership starts to go down. And this is what I believed caused the downfall of Happy Tree Friends. Unfortunately for Mondo Media, that wasn't the end of their troubles. As time went on, their YouTube channels slowly began to fade out of relevancy as their views began to stagnate. As of recording this video, they haven't posted anything to their main account in over 5 months, leaving their channel as a dead shell of what it used to be. And that, comrades, was the rise and fall of Happy Tree Friends. And what an unfortunate fall it truly was. But is this really the end of the Happy Tree Friends? Well, probably not, to be honest. The Happy Tree Friends fanbase is still alive and active even to this very day. Not to mention, there are YouTube channels out there who are dedicated to creating HDF content, such as Nemeo, Nikki, and Sebastian Rodriguez. And most of their videos have actually gone viral across YouTube. It seems like even after the show's downfall, the fan base was still able to keep the series alive even after all this time had passed. And with the recent popularity of the Friday Night Funkin' mod, it appears that interest in the series has risen up once again. But does this really guarantee that the show will indeed return? Well, I'm gonna have to say this, people, but the chances are slim, to say the least. Now, don't get me wrong, these aren't terrible numbers, but in comparison to what the show was getting back in the day, the views aren't really that impressive. And honestly, I don't really think this is enough to convince Mondo Media to bring the show back. But then again, comrades, if you do want to see this show return, there is a way you can make that possible. A YouTuber who goes by the name of Arbsillence has created an online petition in order to bring back the show, with the title #BringBackHTF. So if any of you do want to see the show return, go to that petition and sign it. Help it reach 10,000 signatures and we might just be able to bring the show back. But regardless, I still think people are going to have loving memories of this show no matter what. The show left a massive impact on the internet and has made some great accomplishments over the years, bringing joy and happiness to millions of people across the world. From the audiences at film festivals, to the people on television, and to the millions of viewers on YouTube, Happy Tree Friends has left a smile on all of our faces. And for that, the show will be dearly missed.